And finally, folks, it's come down to this. We've had almost a couple of months of action, conversation, cricket, agreements, disagreements. Teams have been knocking each other out. Teams have been making wonderful comebacks. And at the end of all that, it's down to two teams. Yes, it is. It's the team that finished top of the league stage, Gujarat, the Gujarat Titans. They've gone straight into the final. They've been waiting and waiting and waiting to see who they would face. And they're taking on the men in pink. Yes, royalty has arrived at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, and they're waiting to take on the Gujarat Titans. Different strengths for both teams. One team has actually played here ahead of the home team. Makes for interesting dynamics. Makes for great conversation. And we welcome a couple of our favorites here on our final session of Cricbuzz Live. Well, Michael Vaughan, Ajay Jadeja, gentlemen, this is it. This is the final one, Ajay, and it's all hosted by Gujarat.
Yeah, it's all hosted by Gujarat. Gujarat's been leading the way. They may have been new, the stadium's new, the team's new, but they played brilliantly. I mean, they've played like champions, but this is where it really matters. I know it's a league and they've topped the league, but at the end of the day, this is the final. So a big one. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, at the very top, why don't we start by revealing the news of the toss? Because we talked a lot about it. Michael Vaughan was unequivocal that with everything that's happened so far, win toss, chase, win the match, go home. But Michael, let me come to you straight. Rajasthan have won the toss and they've done what they've been doing early in the tournament. They've decided to bat first. Are they playing to Gujarat's strengths?
Yeah, evening everyone. It does surprise me when you think that Rajasthan won on the same pitch just 2 nights ago by chasing comfortably. But we've been crying out for a captain to win the toss and bat and get runs on the board and try and force the pressure. Big finals, generally, you'd prefer to get runs on the board. But I don't think Gujarat will be too disappointed. They're a team that likes to chase. Rajasthan throughout this year's IPL have been a team that can win either way, but have liked to set more often than not. So they've gone with the strength. I think Gujarat will be happy to chase. Rajasthan are happy to set. If the ball does what it did 2 nights ago, and Gujarat get it right, particularly someone like Shami early, you could easily see 1 or 2 wickets falling quite quickly, and Rajasthan being put on the back foot. But if you can see through that initial period and get something like 170 plus, well, on this venue, you're right in the game, but you're going to need that kind of score. Anything below 170, as we saw 2 nights ago, I just don't think it's going to be enough.
Interesting mind games, Ajay, because if you think about it exactly as Michael said, only one team has played on the surface of these two before. It's not the home team, and they've done something very different. This time around, they're changing it up. Is it about, you're a bat first person. Is it just about the fact that it's a big final?
The big final is always good to bat first, but it could be, because it's the same strip. Is it the same strip? I'm presuming it's the same strip that you're playing on. And, you only had a day in middle. So maybe at times groundsmen don't want to water it much. They don't want to take a chance. There was going to be a dance performance as well. So I don't know, whether the wicket was covered or not. So maybe it's a little drier, and that could be one of the reasons that you want to bat first. But for me, batting first in a big game is always, a huge advantage. When you guys go in, start the game, even if there's a little flutter, you always have a chance to come back. Whereas in that second innings, you start an innings, you lose a Joss Butler there because, that team actually relies so much on them. So a couple of things going for Rajasthan Royals, and they had to make a call, and they've definitely made a call. And for me, batting first is an aggressive call, not a defensive call.
Well, the first call that the men in pink made was they're not making any changes. No tinkering with their 11. They don't need to. They've had a settled 11. Once Obaid McCoy is fitted into that bowling unit, and this just looks settled. I think it's a simple word to use, Michael. But once you've got it going in the playoffs, you wouldn't want to change anything.
No, and these games come thick and fast. So you're on a roll. You're playing nicely. So I think it'd have been quite a quick management meeting. The only discussion would be injuries. Anyone picked up any niggles from the last game? And if that's answered by the physio, no, you don't really have a meeting. You just know you're going to play the same 11. Prasid Krishna was magnificent, with his pace just 2 nights ago. So he'll be looking forward to bowling on this surface. But so will someone like Mohammad Shami. I do think that matchup at the top, if Shami gets it right, and surely has to bowl the first over to Joss Butler. If he gets it right, a bit of swing, bit of seam. You could easily see that could be a really good matchup for Gujarat against Jos Buttler. If not, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see Rashid Khan inside the first 6 to try and get rid of Jos Buttler. That's got to be your tactic. Gujarat have to get rid of the best player in the tournament, and you have to almost throw all your eggs into that basket early to try and dislodge Rajasthan. Don't allow it to get to 10 or 12 overs and Butler's still out there. You have to get him early to really restrict this Rajasthan team.
Well, before we look at the opposition, let's bring all our fans into the fold, because they've been so diligent with the questions that they've been sending in throughout the season. So right up front, let's take today's hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live question. And this one comes from Mungeri Lal. I love his Twitter handle, Fully Faltu. Butler looked clueless against Rashid Khan in qualifier 1. How soon should Hardik bring on Rashid? And how many of his overs can Hardik afford to exhaust in the first 10, Ajay? Michael answered the first part of it. I think we'll go to the second part of Mungeri Lal's question.
I'm totally with Michael on that. I mean, that's the man that you need to dislodge, because to, upset the whole Rajasthan Royals, bandwagon that's been going in a certain way, unless you dislodge him, it is going to get difficult. So I would actually go all the way. I mean, I just see on my screen that Lockie's been replaced for Alzari Joseph. So that gives you a signal as well. Lockie Ferguson can actually bowl a little later as well. With Alzari, it was always the first change that he came on. So with that side, I think Rashid Khan will come in early for sure. And I hope they just don't stop at over number 1, 2, 3. Because, at the end of the day, Rashid has to bowl 4 overs. And depending on the situation, you use him. And today, the situation is that you got to use him at the top. The pressure is going to be right at the top. So, if you don't pick him, then you've got to carry on with him. Because if Butler is going to hold back, and it looks like it, because he was struggling the other day to pick him. So, as long as he's struggling against him and you haven't picked him up, I would not stop. I would carry on with him, because that's a crucial blow that you need to have. And fortunately for Gujarat, the bowling side that they have, they're not one of those sides where they decide only this bowler will bowl a certain period and a certain bowler will bowl at a different period. So if Hardik Pandya is using his captaincy skills, if he throws him in early, he should carry on till the time, even if he exhausts his 3 overs before 10 over mark, or whatever stage he comes on, because they've got decent seamers. So you've got to take your first chance with those seamers. And once Rashid Khan is on, he doesn't come off for me until he picks up Butler.
Interesting one there. One more number I'll throw at you, Michael. In playoff games, and he's had a few, he's played 8 of them, he's never conceded more than 26 runs and in any one spell in a playoff match. Now that says something.
Yeah, and you look at his best there, 3 for 19. I would say most teams that have played against Rashid Khan in playoff games has probably had the team chart. Just see him out. Don't risk too much against him. Don't allow him to get 4 and 5. I would think Rajasthan will go with that same kind of ploy tonight. I think they'll try and hit Rashid for 20 off his 4 overs. Don't allow him to get too many wickets, and try and get the remainder of the runs off the remaining 16 overs. The one thing against Rashid Khan, if you allow him to get on a roll and you take too many risks and he gets 2 and 3 quick wickets, you're pretty much out of the game. So I don't think they'll risk too much. I think that obviously he's a human being. He could bowl bad balls and you can whack the bad balls, but I don't think they'll risk too much against Rashid Khan. I think they'll try and score off the other bowlers.
And we've seen that happen. We saw it, against several bowlers. Sunil Narayan, of course, comes to mind, but particularly Rashid Khan. And we've had situations where you've had aggressive players. One remembers even a Shimron Hetmeyer, who's in this lineup, had picked a member of the opposition and said, I'm not going to go after him, and played defensively. So I guess, if one side throws a little, plays a little game, Ajay, the other side can play a counter game and say that, fine, if that's what you're going to do, we'll find a way.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you expect from both the teams. I mean, and these two teams are not the computer teams. I mean, Rajasthan still probably goes more on data and matchups, but still they played fluid cricket. They've played situations differently. So like I said, if I throw Rashid Khan in and I carry on bowling with him, you have a choice. I mean, your choice is that you'd probably just play him out and say, okay, Shimron Hetmeyer won't have to play him. So a couple of runs here and there, because it will be a tight game. It will be about who takes those calls, who takes those chances. And in a final, you probably don't want to take too many chances at the start of the game because you don't want to let the opposition come in. So if he bowls many overs here, then Hitmaier will probably be happier. But, you got to get through Butler first to get to Hitmaier. Because if Hitmaier walks in with, 5-6 overs left, even if it's Rashid Khan, maybe then he can still have a go and swing at him. But if you get him in at, Rashid Khan has only 1 over and over number 11, at that stage, he would be happy with a maiden over as well. And these are little tactical moves that each team will be playing. But it's tough to sit here and say, how will they end up playing? Because these two teams don't decide before the game how they're going to play.
You cannot discount the Joss factor, though. Several words have been used to describe him. Michael, I know you've been on the show. I think the word freak has been used both for Liam Livingstone and Jos Buttler in different contexts. But there's no doubting just the amount of impact both of them, and now with Livingstone gone, Butler has had on this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Kumar Sangakkara said that he's not seen anyone play better in IPL history, and that's a huge accolade from one of the greats of the game, and I have to believe him. I mean, Virat's had his time, but Butler this year has just played in a fashion. I mean, look at the strike rate, 151, 400s batting in that kind of style. He is a freak. He can hit the ball pretty much to all parts. He's got that many boundary options. And where he's clever as well is he knows when the game's just going his way that he'll start to just see the game through. Players like Butler in the past have always been flamboyant. We've seen all these shots before, but there's not been many that have seen the game through to the wire, not out at the end, shaking the opposing team's hand, playing in that fashion. They generally give it away with 15 required, 10 required, because they're playing so expansively. But he seems to make expansive play look ordinary, and normal to him. It seems like he can hit a ball out the ground and it just looks like a normal cricket stroke, where many times you see other players hit the big shot, you think, oh, that's a massive risk. It looks like he's gambling quite a lot to play that stroke. Butler, when he's hitting the boundary and scoring quickly, it doesn't look like he's getting out of fourth gear. And he's a Ferrari. He can go up to sixth gear when he wants. But he never seems to look like he's going into that gear kind of change fashion. Clearly, Gujarat have to get him if they don't get him early. And that's why it's been really impressive this year, that once he's got in, he's not really looked like getting out. It looks like he's got that mentality and that real want to score big. Again, T20 cricket, it's hard on the body. You're running all the time and it's draining. And you've got to have that real want to be there at the end. And this year, Butler's had that incredible desire to see his team through. I know he's completely committed to Rajasthan. And this year, they've been talking endlessly in the team meeting about Shane Warne. They want to win it this year for their first Royal, which is the King Shane Warne himself. And Jos was very close to Shane. He got close to him over the last few years in England, played a lot of golf with him, socialised with him. And I know he's completely committed and driven to try and get the pink side over the line today for Shane Warne.
Yeah, I think that'll be a wonderful battle in that sense. If you leave the cricketing aspect of it, Ajay, on the one hand, the Royals who won in 2008, playing for their first Royal, and what a wonderful memory it is of a legend of the game. And on the other side, a packed stadium playing host to the home team. I mean, it's two non-cricketing battles which are wonderful.
Yeah, they're totally opposing ones. But yes, I'm with, the guys on the field probably relate more with Shane Warne. I mean, especially with the Royals teams, and they would probably be more emotionally attached with them. Don't forget, the Gujarat team still hasn't played with this crowd ever. I mean, they've come in for the first time to Ahmedabad. Yes, it's a huge crowd. There'll be great support. But if it had to go for non-cricketing reasons, I would also go with, Jos Buttler, and, Shane Warne was the legend of this sport. I mean, we haven't seen a player like him. Maybe there were, the players who will come and go would have better skills, or they would be a better players. But, a persona of Shane Warne was much larger, and he probably popularized this sport more than anything else. So, if it had to go emotionally, I would also go with, Royals winning it. Let them win it rather than for the crowd, because the crowd will have a next opportunity.
Yeah, I think just to to finish off on this, it was an impact for various reasons. We know what Shane Warne has done as a player for Australia. He's an absolute legend. But when it comes to an impact in this tournament, of course, you can think of a Brendan McCullum starting it off in style. But winning in season one with an unheralded team, Michael, it was all about Shane Warne's leadership, his charisma, and getting the team together. I was privileged enough to be part of a documentary that was made on that first season, just having to been asked to voice it. And as a result of that, I got to so many insights into what it was really all about Shane Warne G'ing everyone up.
Yeah, I mean, he has an amazing ability to make people feel, 20 foot tall when you're around him. He just makes you feel more confident. And that's exactly what he did in 2008. Did he have the best team on paper? Absolutely not. But did he drive a culture around the team and a togetherness and an ability to play the pressure card? And that was probably him out in the middle, just trying to force the pressure onto the opposing side by tactical manoeuvres, thinking outside the box, delivering skill himself, but more so delivering belief into the other 10 players out there in the middle. No surprise at all that he got them over the line. Gujarat have got the same chance this evening to win. It's the first year for Gujarat. It was the first year for Rajasthan, well, for all the teams in 08, but Rajasthan won it the first time of asking, and Gujarat have got a great chance. They've played some tremendous cricket. To pull together a franchise isn't easy, and to pull together a culture of a team that has played so collectively, to get a captain that's looked so calm and controlled and playing so well himself. The think tank behind this Gujarat team and the auction went so well for them. They picked a really good group, not just a group of players, but you could see it was strategically picked in terms of people in certain roles to make them a very dependable side in T20 cricket. So the management of Gujarat deserve a lot of credit. Hardik's been fantastic, and Hardik could achieve what Shane achieved back in 2008. At the first time of asking, he could get the trophy in his hands tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned on the one hand the legacy of Shane Warne. Well, Hardik Pandya could just be going to establish a legacy. Not somebody, Ajay, who was known necessarily for leadership skills. He wasn't leading the national side. He was very much a flamboyant all-rounder, a bad boy at times, if you like. And then suddenly he gets this responsibility of captaining a franchise who was starting from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to the management there to have, thought of him. I mean, now at the end of the season, you look at it and because of all the success, but not many people would have, put their money on Hardik Pandya to lead a side and not be the naughty boy that you refer to. He's a naughty boy. And I like that part about him. I mean, the reason why I like it is that he stuck to what he is. I mean, he hasn't changed as a human being. He hasn't changed as a player. In fact, if anything, he's looked much calmer. He's been responsible on the ground, but he's brought out a different, his own style. Because it's, how it's in India. We only like players who are, correct people, who talk correctly, don't do anything that people don't accept. Socially, you got to be accepted. And Hardik isn't one of them. He's a flamboyant man. He's if I could use the word maverick for him, that's how he is. And what has been enjoyable to watch is that he's, let everybody else be that as well. And you see that with the Gujarat team. They played sensibly. It's not that they've just played, gone out there and thrown their bat. They've, played sensibly. They've achieved some amazing things at the end when they were chasing, but they've done their basics right as well. And one of the best things I liked is, when they got lucky with that 13-run chase, not 13-run chase, 13 of the last 3 balls with that overthrow, he was, man enough to come and say, look, we got lucky today. Gods have been on our side. And he's been an honest guy. He may be a naughty fellow, but he's honest. He's just out there having fun. He's 27, 28. At that age, if you're not going to be naughty, when are you going to be naughty? Not at our age, GB.
Why is he naughty? What's he done to be naughty? He's just a good cricketer, isn't he?
Yeah, I love him. There were very few people who would, look at him and say, look, this can be the future. Whether it's his batting or bowling, because he's not considered to be the correct person in India. And that's why he's got that name. And I guess they were both naughty, him and KL Rahul, at that coffee that they had. And that was a bit of a turbulent times for him. But he's come out of it stronger. And I'm so happy to see him do well.
I prefer to call him just he's a character. And I think cricket needs characters. I think we've been lacking in characters for many, many years. I think you go back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, we had characters pretty much across all the teams. And give me a team that's got one or two, if you want to call them naughty boys, mavericks, charismatic people, give me those in the team all day long. It makes your life more interesting, more enjoyable when you've got a few characters in your team.
Yeah, certainly. It's interesting that you should mention the KL Rahul connection, Ajay, because the two new franchises have been captained by Hardik Pandya, KL Rahul. Rahul, of course, was the expected leader. Everyone knew that he was moving from Punjab and he would captain whatever franchise he goes to. But Hardik, the unexpected one. But really, we might talk about all the charisma and captaincy. But really, it's not just been about him just leading and sitting back. He's been doing it on the field. Started off the season, opening the bowling, cranking it up to 140 plus. Then when we thought he'd bat at 5 or 6, he comes up to number 3 or 4. So he's really been showing that, listen, I can do it on the field itself. I'm not just a tactician here.
Yeah, he's been fabulous. And I mean, he's had the opportunity as well, because ever since he's come, he's generally bats at 6, 7, 5, very late in the order. And he's been exceptional there. But even with the test match cricket, when he came in, it was Sri Lanka when he got 100, went to South Africa, got a 95. It's just that because he was bowling as well, and when he stopped bowling, people looked at him and said, no, he's an all-rounder. If he doesn't bowl, he doesn't make it to the side. But I think a lot of people will change the way they look at Hardik Pandya now, because he can bat, he can purely play as a batsman. And as Michael said, he's a character, and you need characters, and this character is a positive character. The good thing about this man is that he's positive at every stage, and that's what he's done with his batting. He's looked much more solid than even I expected. I think most people who don't expect him to be a pure batsman would definitely be surprised. But for somebody who's backed him only as a batsman, was also surprised to see how calmly he's played through those innings. And, those numbers show you, that average of 45 in a 20 format is a pretty good average to have.
177 if you add up the strike rate and the average, Michael. But I think what the word Ajay used about, just the kind of pure batsman he's shown himself to be in Mumbai, or even playing T20 internationals for India, he's been this hectic finisher. And we've not seen that side of him, but it's because we haven't needed to see that side of him.
No, he's a better player than that. He's got better skills than just going out there in the last few overs and hitting sixes. I think that's been proven to be the case. And sometimes it's the captaincy that drives that. You get the captaincy and you have to play different roles. You have to play the role that the team require. He's put himself a bit higher up. So he's not in that finisher position that he has been in Mumbai, and I guess for India. And he's shown, and I would hope India are looking at the way that he's played in the IPL and thought, wait a minute, there's an opportunity to get him up the order. He's not someone that just needs 15 balls at the end of the innings. If you give him 40, 50 balls, he could get you hundreds in international cricket. I just like characters. I like people that look like they're playing the game because it's just another game. I like people that look like they're playing the game like they did when they were kids. when there was no pressure, there was no social media presence, there wasn't anybody like us talking about them. They just played cricket. And Hardik looks to me like he's one of those characters that just plays cricket, and he tries to play it with his eyes. He tries to play with it on instinct. I'm sure he's got all the data going on as a captain. All the captains in this era, you'd want the data, but it's how you use data. And for me, he looks like the kind of captain that probably takes the data in, but instinctively, if it's not required at that time, he'll go with his instinct. And you mentioned KL Rahul, Hardik Pandya, Sanju Samson, 3 captains that have captained really well this year. And that's what the best captains seem to do. They seem to react to the situation better than most, but take the information in from I call them the computers. The computer gives them a bit of information, but they take that information and use it correctly out in the middle instinctively. And Hardik's done that very well this year.
I'll pick up from what Michael Vaughan just said. We mentioned it a few shows ago. It's not been a coincidence. It's not been a great time to be a captain of a franchise this season, particularly the iconic teams, the Mumbais, the Chennais. The captains haven't quite performed down there. But the teams whose captains have performed, not a coincidence that 3 out of 4 made the playoffs, Ajay. And the 2 teams, I suppose the 2 captains who have performed the best in terms of what they've contributed, they're in the final. Hardik Pandya, Sanju Samson. Let's talk about Sanju for a moment here. Quietly done his work, but done enough work at the other end of Jos Butler.
Yeah, he's done enough. He's got his team to the finals, but I don't know if he's happy with what he's done, because as an individual, he's got immense talent. I mean, the ability that he has to strike that ball with the ease that he does, not many people have it. I mean, your numbers don't show you big average there. You only see 29, which he would want to better it for sure. Strike rate, something that has never been a problem with him. Most players, I think one of the other strike rates that you associate with him is, the first 10 balls. When he walks in, there's nobody else who strikes at a better strike rate. And the reason why that average is probably that low is the flip side of it. Because, he goes out there and, plays the way he likes playing, and he's great to watch. But it's frustrating, over the years to see him, not what everybody expects him to do that he hasn't been able to do. And I hope he feels like that, because sometimes you might, as a captain, when you're winning, or your team's winning, you're contributing, you're scoring runs, and you start feeling, look, maybe this is my job. But I think he's a far superior player than that.
Yeah, I guess those numbers, maybe, they're obviously about half the runs of Jos Buttler, but in the context of the team that he's in the situations that he has contributed, at the times he has, Michael, obviously he'd himself set standards to do far better, but he's certainly not been a situation where you say, okay, you haven't quite done as well.
Well, I wouldn't be worried about those numbers at all. I mean, an average of 30 in T20 cricket is pretty good. The strike rate of 147 is very, very good. So he just seems to have got the score at the right time. It may have been a 40, but he gets it off like 27 balls, and he changes the momentum of the game when he goes out to bat. And I think you look for players who can do that. You look for players that can create impact pretty much as soon as they walk out to the middle. And I think Sanju, even if he gets 15, 18, I still think he's made a little play in the game, because he's never really playing in a way that's making the game go behind his team. He's not letting the game drift. Whenever he goes out to the middle, you always feel that the game's going to move forward for his team. And it might not last a long time, but you feel even when he walks off, he's done something to try and put a positive spin on the game. That's why he's a good player. With the captaincy and with everything that he's brought in terms of the culture of the side, he's had a terrific season. He will have gone to sleep last night, just crossing his fingers, crossing his toes, and he will be thinking, please, Josh, do it once more. As a captain, when you have these great players that suddenly get on this roll, you do start dreaming, please, just, even if it's not me as the skipper and as the player, just do it again. I'm quite happy to see Jos Buttler go and score another 100 and get Rajasthan to another victory, because as captains, you can captain as well as you want, you can create as much of a culture as you want. Unless your best players produce magic, it's very difficult to win.
Yeah, well, there was an interesting little conversation between him and Jos Buttler, which was out on social media on the IPL T20 website. It was good to watch the two of them languidly propped on the outfield, having a chat with each other. But let's finish this segment on Sanju Samson with a little quote that might just sum up everything about him this season. And it's his own quote. I'm not here to score lots and lots of runs. I'm here to score a small amount of runs, which is very effective for the team. So it just shows, in a sense, to sum him up, that he is focused about that. He knows that if he's capable of getting 100. But if he doesn't get 100, a 40 of 21 balls is just as effective for the cause of the team. And that's what he's talking about. The cause of the team, can he get them to the title? One final time, we've got a quiz question for all of you. Michael Vaughan, you can look away if you like. That's fine.
I will do. I will. I'm watching the game.
Very good. Very good. So let's have our final joy factor question of the season. And here it is. Complete the sequence. Rahul Dravid, Suresh Raina, Azhar Bilakhia, Sunny Sohal, Rob Quiney, Naman Ojha, David Warner. Goodness gracious me, that's a motley crew. It is a list that doesn't look as it.
I know it.
All right, hang in there. Don't give it to us. You can tell us after the show. Well done. Michael Vaughan getting excited about a joy question. That's one for the ages, but it's the final. Anything can happen here. It's a final in front of an absolutely packed crowd. We've got a packed audience here. And we, of course, have to still get our prediction in. Michael, have you consulted the team yet?
Yeah. Polly's here again, so I'm going 177.
Very nice. 177. Usual suspects, Ajay?
Usual suspects. I'll stick to that. That's the winning score. If you get there, you win.
Which is 189?
189.
177, 189, little cramped in the final. Surely it's possible. Surely it's possible that they'll be a little bit tentative in the final. I'll go a little lower. I'll go for a 169. A 169. Remember, 170 is actually a winning score on this particular surface. So 169 may not be bad. It's lower than the others, but it could be a winner. Of course, everyone's busy on the final day. We've got on Cricbuzz Plus, match party. They're all ready. They've already started. They're having a blast. And 7:15 is when it all began. It'll continue till the end of the game. Look out for that. And of course, so much more. Once you've subscribed to Cricbuzz Plus, you can find retro reels, interviews, articles, and much, much more. Right here on Cricbuzz Plus, or rather right here on Cricbuzz Live, you will find us always there at the 10th over on Cricbuzz Combox. For now, for the final pre-show of the season, on behalf of Michael Vaughan, Ajay Jadeja, and myself, Gautam Bhimani, we shall see you very, very soon.